We begin the Gemara today on the last Mishnah, on the last line, and Daf Mem Amud Aleph. Zok Heilige Mishnah, Chaylitz liyevimta, a person that does chalitza for his Yevama. Hu aser b'kroivei seha, he is prohibited of having any relations with her relatives. Now this is a gzeira midrabanan, similar to the halacha that it is by a person that divorces his wife. So a grusha, a person is aser to different relatives, like the Torah says. The Mishnah here will soon bring which relatives we're speaking about. And so Chacham wa geyser, that just like by a grusha, that halacha applies, similar by a chalutza. And vihi asura b'kroivav, and she will be prohibited with having relations with his relatives. So now what relatives are we speaking about? So the Mishnah explains. Hu asar, he will be asar bi'ima, with her mother, be'emima, with her grandmother, be'emavia, with her grandmother, his father's mother, bebita, her daughter, bebaspita, her granddaughter, bebaspana, her granddaughter when it's his son's daughter, uba'chaisa, and her sister. Now regarding the last one that it says here, that he's asked to marry her sister, that's only as long as she is alive. That's b'chlal the halacha regarding a wife's sister, that the isser of a wife's sister is only as long as your wife is alive. So that's the isurim that he is asser with these following women that are her relatives. Veha achin mutarin. So however, this is only an isser for the brother himself that did the chalitza. So the chalutza, he will be asser with her relatives. But the other brothers that did not do the chalitza, they are going to be mutter with all of her relatives. So the point over here is that only the brother that did the chalitza, she's considered to be a chalutza for him. The other brothers, we don't say that for them as well, she is a chalutza to them. Because the brother that did the chalitza did it in their place. No, he didn't do it in their place. They have nothing to do with this chalitza. So that's when you get to her relatives. Now the Mishnah says that she is aser, and in his relatives, vihi asura, and she is going to be aser, but aviv, in having any relations with his father, ubavi aviv, and his grandfather, ubibnai, his son, ubiven bnai, his grandson, ba'achiv, his brother, ubiben achiv, and the son of his brother. So Rashi points out over here how each one of them are arayas, and therefore it's aser for her. And Rashi actually says that some of these are not arayas min atayra, some of these are shniyas. For example, ben benoi is not an erva min atayra. Ben benoi, which would mean that she is the wife of she's asa because of Eishes Avi Aviv. That's only from the shniyas of arayas, which the Gemara will discuss right over here now why that is asa. Now the Mishnah finishes off mutter adam bekroivas tsaras chalutzasai. A person is allowed to the relative of the second wife of the chalutza. So in other words, the Mishnah just said the relatives of the chalutza are aser, but the relatives of the second wife of the chalutza, to that he is allowed. Now the Mishnah says another thing though, but va'aser, he will be aser to bitzaras krevas chalutzasai, which means you have a relative of the chalutza, and then that relative of the chalutza, let's say a sister of the chalutza, and that sister of the chalutza is married to somebody, and there's a second wife as well, and so he's also to that second wife of the relative of your chalutza. Now this is a very interesting isser. Obviously this is not an isser min atayra. There's no reason to aser the second wife of a relative of a chalutza. The Gemara will explain that what the reason for this isser is. It's a gzeira midrabanan, as we'll see. Okay, Zok the Gemara, Ibaya Lahu, we're on Daf Mem Amud Beis. Ibaya Lahu, so the question here was asked about the Pshat in the Mishnah. So the Mishnah here is speaking about a Gzeira Midrabanan to Aser a Chalutza. So the question is, Gazru Shniyais B'Chalutza, Oiloi. When Chachamim made this Gzeira, that you're not allowed to get married to any of the relatives of the chalutza, similar to a grusha, does that mean even those relatives that are shniyas, that are not asam and atayra, but are asam and rabbanan, that's also aser? Oi b'chalutza legazru rabbanan shniyas. Or maybe chachamim were not geyser. Again, just a second. Again, I skipped something over here. Be'erve de oiraise gazru b'hu rabbanan. Do I say that when it comes to the isar arayis min atayra, a real relative min atayra, over here chachamim will geyser to aser a chalutza on these relatives, but shniyais B'chalutza loy gozer rabbanan, but when it comes to the shniyos, chachamim would not geyser. Oy dilme le gozer rabbanan shniyos, oy dilme lo ishna. Or perhaps there's no difference, and chachamim would geyser the gzeira of a chalutza, that you're not allowed to have any relations with her relatives. That means both the isurim midayraisa, the erva min atayra, and it includes the erva midrabbanan as well. It's sort of going to be like a double isur midrabbanan. The whole isur of getting married to a chalutza is isur midrabbanan. The question is whether chachamim included in that all the arayis that are involved, not only the arayis min atayra, but even the arayis midrabbanan as well. Toshema. So the Gemara brings from what it says in the Mishnah. Who aser be'ima, that the yavam that did the chalitza is not allowed to have any relations with her mother. Ube'eim ima. And then it says also with the grandmother. Ve'ilu aim ima. But now a generation further, which is the great grandmother, loikatani. It doesn't mention that in the Mishnah. The great grandmother is one of the cases which chachamim asred midrabanan, and it doesn't say it in the Mishnah. So the fact that the Mishnah skips this seems to indicate that there is no isser regarding your chalutza when it comes to shniyas. Says the Gemara, no, it's not a raya. Dil mehainu taime. Perhaps the reason why it doesn't mention the great grandmother, the loitani, it doesn't say it, mishum the kabayla misni seifes. Since the Mishnah says after this, v'ho'achin mutarin, that any of the brothers that they did not do the chalitza, for them she is mutter. So therefore, it does not want to say the great grandmother. Why? Because v'itana aim ima. If it would mention the great grandmother, then havamina I would think to say ha'achin mutarin dafke be'aim ima. That when it says that for the brothers that did not do chalitza, they would be mutter, it's only referring to the great grandmother. Once great. Again, they would only be mutter to the great grandmother. Why? Because these brothers did not do any chalitza. They had a certain connection to this woman, a zika, but they never did chalitza. So therefore, they would be mutter to the great grandmother. There's no isser of the shniyos of midrabanan. Aval be'eim ima. But I would think that even the other brothers that did not do chalitza, but just because they were once connected to her, because there was a zika to them before the chalitza was done, so maybe the isurim of arayis min atayre, which is a mother or emima or the grandmother, avol be'emima or be'ima, the grandmother or the mother loy, over there, this heter for the brothers does not apply, and the brothers will be aser to the mother and the grandmother. So therefore, it did not want to mention the great grandmother. So it should be clear that when it says that the brothers are mutter, the brothers are totally mutter, even for the grandmother and for the mother as well. And like I pointed out before when I read the Mishnah, that the point is the brothers have nothing to do with this chalitza. The brother that did the chalitza, for him, she is a chalutza. For the other brothers, she's not a chalutza at all, because the brother that did the chalitza did not do it in their shlichus. It's a chalitza that has nothing to do with them. The Gemara does not accept this answer. V'lisni aim ima. Why does it not say the great grandmother here? That the brother that did the chalitza is also to the great grandmother. Now you're concerned that we'll make a mistake when it comes to understanding what it means that the brothers that did not do chalitza are mutter. So let the Mishnah spell it out clearly. V'lisni, let the Mishnah say ha'achin mutarin bekulon. That when it comes to the brother that did not do chalitza, so they will be mutter bekulon. With all of the cases that I mentioned in the Mishnah, it just has to add this one word bekulon to clarify that the brothers are mutter with everybody. So why could the Mishnah not say that? Kashya. So that remains a question. The Gemara does not answer this. Tashamas, again, the Gemara brings another raya. We're trying to figure out if the isser that Chachamim made for a chalutza, the woman that you did chalitza for, is that only for the arayis min atayre or even for the arayis min rabbanan, for shniyas. So the Gemara brings a raya. It says in the Mishnah, he asura ba'aviv. She will be usher to have relations with the Yevamos father, u'ba'avi aviv, with his grandfather. So katani miyes avi aviv. So it mentions here that she can't have any relations with the grandfather. Now, why can't she have any relations with the grandfather? My love, mishum chaylitz. Don't you think the reason is because of the fact that this is the grandfather of the person that did the chalitza? Tahavyalo kalas benoy. And therefore, who is she? She is the daughter-in-law of his son, which is only a isser of erve midrabanan. This is one of the shniyas. Minatayre, the erve is only a daughter-in-law, not a daughter-in-law of your son. So over here we see clearly the Mishnah is mentioning the case of avi aviv, which is only a gzeira midrabanan. So doesn't that prove clearly that there's an isser of shniyas? Says the Gemara, loy, that's not the reason. The reason she'll be aser to the chalutz's grandfather is also mishum misne, because at the same time that it's the grandfather of the one that did chalitza for her, it's also the grandfather of the brother that she was his wife that passed away. The Havila Kalas Benai. So therefore, over here, she is the daughter-in-law of his son, and what the Gemara means over here is that she's not just a daughter-in-law by being a chalutza, and she never really got married to him. She's literally a daughter-in-law. She was actually married to the first brother, she was really a daughter-in-law of the son, and therefore over there, the Isser of Midrabanan applies because she was a real wife, and over there, the Shnias Midrabanan applies. We're not talking about a chalutza. There she was actually a wife. So it's not a raya. Now this is an answer the Gemara is going to repeat a few times over here again. That even though it might seem like this is an issa that's only because of the person that did chalitza for her, but at the ssame time, there could also be the issa because of the fact that she was really the wife of the brother that passed away. Tashema, the next thing it said in the Mishnah was, Ubeben benoi. She's not allowed to have any relations with the grandson of the one that did chalitza for her. My love, don't you think the reason is Mishum Chaylitz? That the Isser is because this is the grandson of the one that did Chalitza for her. The Havila Eishes Avi Aviv. And for him, for this grandson, who is she? She is the wife, we consider her to be the wife of his grandfather. So that's also only a Isser of Erva Midrabanan. So I see over here that this Isser of Arayis for the Chalutza applies even for the Isser Erva Midrabanan. So again the Gemara says the same answer, Loi Mishum Misna. The reason why she's also with the grandson of the one that did chalitza for her is not because of the one that did chalitza. It's because of the brother that she was fully married to, that she was really married to. And then, what is she for him? V'haviylah eishes achi avi aviv. So now for this grandson of the chalutz, or really the grandson of the chalutz, which is the brother of the one that she was married to, so she's going to be the wife of the brother of the father's father. In other words, this is the wife of a great uncle. And a wife of a great uncle is asataka only midrabanan, but because she was fully married to the brother that passed away, so over there, the Isser of Shnias midrabanan definitely applies. Our only question is, benigay to the Isser of Shniya is regarding a chalutza. But over here, the Isser is not because of the Chalutza. The Isser is because she was a wife. She was a wife of the brother that passed away. So therefore, there's the Isser of Shnias that applies to Achi, Avi, Aviv. Says the Gemara, but that's not so clear. We once learned about this in the Sugya before that spoke about all of the Shnias. And this was a case that there was a machlokes about. We learned before, he says that the wife of a great uncle basically is mutter. There is no even Issa midrabanan for this. So how could you say that's the pshat in the Mishnah? So the Gemara answers and says, according to Ameimer, you have to read the Mishnah differently. Ameimer moikila bebar bera de saba. Ameimer says, when it says in the Mishnah, the son and the grandson, look back in the Lashon of the Mishnah. So it says that she's aser, Lashon of the Mishnah over here is, that she's aser ba'aviv, u'ba'vi aviv, the grandfather, then it says b'bnoi, b'ben b'noi. So how did we learn the pshat in the Mishnah till now? When it said the son and the grandson, it meant the son of the chalutz and the grandson of the chalutz. One that did chalitza, his grandson. But now the Gemara is saying, no, Ameimer says when it says the son and the grandson, it doesn't mean the son and the grandson of the one that did chalitza, it means the son and the grandson of the father of the one that did chalitza. Since it just spoke before about the father, it means the son of that father, which is basically the brother of the one that did chalitza, or the grandson, which means the nephew of the one that did chalitza. That's what it means. And over there, it's not asam derabana. That's a erva min atayra. Says the Gemara, Ihachi, if that's the case, that we're talking about the son of the Cholitz's father, or the grandson of the Cholitz's father, Hainu Achiv uben Achiv. That would be exactly the same as what the Mishnah says right afterwards, that she's not allowed to have relations to the brother. The brother is the son of the father of the Cholitz, or Ben Achiv. Ben Achiv is the grandson of the father of the Cholitz. So the Mishnah clearly says this afterwards, Achiv and Ben Achiv. Now the Issa to have relations to the brother is not really the regular erva that we usually have, but it's actually something we learned before, which is that once you do chalitza for a woman, the other brothers have a lav of lo yibane, that they're not allowed to go and have any relations with her. So that's the brother, or the son of the brother. So she's Eishes Achi Aviv. So that the Mishnah clearly mentioned that afterwards. So why does it have to say it again here, according to this pshat? Says the Gemara, it says it twice for the following reason. Tana achiv min ha'av. It's mentioning the brother when it's a brother that they share the same father. The katani achiv min ha'ein. And it says again a brother, to say that even a brother that you share the same mother is also going to be aser. And Rashi points out that the Gemara here means that it's going to be aser because, not because of the cholutz, not because it's a brother that shares the same mother because of the chalitza, but because of the brother that she was fully married to that passed away. Because otherwise this would again only be a shniyos, it would be a ism d'Rabbanan for the cholutz, which is our whole discussion over here. Okay, the Gemara brings now another raya from a braisa to this question. Did Chachamim make a gzeira for shniyos when it comes to the chalutza? Tashemad Tani Rabchi said, Arba midivrei Teire. So we have 4 over here that their relation to the chalutz is a relation that minat Teire this would be aser. Va'arba midivrei seifrim. And there are 4 of these relations that their relation is only midrabanan. What are the ones that are minat Teire? Av, a father, benoi, son, achiv, a brother. The brother again is this isser of lo yibane, that once one brother does chalitza, the other ones are not allowed to have relations with her. Uben achiv, and also ben achiv, which is also erva minat midivrei Teire. These are all arayas minat Teire. But then avi aviv, the grandfather, vavi imai, the grandfather from the mother's father, ben benoi, grandson, ben bitoi, again a grandson from the daughter, midivrei seifrim. These are all relations that are midrabanan. So the Gemara says katani miyah, so it clearly mentions here avi aviv, that one of the arayas that Chacham will gaze here for the chalutza is a grandfather, and that is an erva that's only midrabanan. So again, the Gemara says the same, like it said before. My love mishum chaylitz. Don't you think that this erva here is aser because of this chaylitz? And even for the chaylitz, we aser a erva midrabanan. V'havila kalas benai. This is a daughter-in-law of a son, and only a son that did chalitza, not a son that was fully married to her ever. Says the Gemara again, like we said before, loy mishum misna. The reason why she's aser to the grandfather is not because she was married, again, not because of the chalitza to the grandson, but rather because she was fully married to the other grandson, to the brother that she was before married to. The Aviyalak kalas benoi, to him, she's literally kalas benoi, she was fully married to that son. Again, the Gemara goes through the same question and answer regarding what it said afterwards here. Tashema, what did Rabchi here mention afterwards? Avi imoi, a grandfather when it's your mother's father. My love, mishum chaylitz. Again, don't you think that the reason why Chachamim asked this, which is only a erva midrabanan, is because of the chalitza? So we see that even for chalitza, there's a isser of a arayis midrabanan. Aviyalak kalas bitay. It's your daughter's daughter's daughter-in-law. Says the Gemara again, loy mishum misna. The isser is because she was married to the brother. The aviyalak kalas bitay, and therefore she is the daughter-in-law of the daughter. Tashema, what did Rabchi say afterwards? Uve ben benoi, that she's asked to get married to the grandson. Again, my love, mishum chaylitz. Don't you think that she's asked to get married to the grandson of the chaylitz, which is only a erva midrabanan, the havila eishes avi aviv. So who is she? She is the wife of the grandfather for this grandson of the chaylitz, and this is only a erva midrabanan. Again, the Gemara answers, loy mishum misna. Reason why she's aser is not because of the chaylitz, but because of the brother of the chaylitz that she was fully married to, the havila eishes achi avi aviv. Like we said before, that she is a wife of a brother of the grandfather. Basically, a great aunt or a great uncle, the wife of the great uncle. That's the reason why this is aser, nothing to do with the chalitza. It's shniyas midrabanan for the brother that she was fully married to. But again, the Gemara says the same like it said before. V'ha ameimer machsher be'eshes achi avi aviv. Doesn't ameimer say that in such a case there is no erva b'chlal midrabanan? He wasn't geyser in such a case for a wife of a great uncle. Says the Gemara, you're right. Ameimer moikim lo mishum chaylitz. According to Ameimer, you're going to have to say that the Isser over here is only because of her being the wife of the chaylitz, so she's Eishes Avi Aviv, and the Kasavar and Ameimer Taka holds, according to Ameimer, we could prove that he holds Gazru Shniyas B'chalutza, that Chachamim were geyser the Isser of Erva Midarabanan for a chalutza. So here the Gemara asked a similar question before, and before the Gemara changed the pshat of when it says the lashon of ben benoi, that ben benoi does not mean the grandson of the chalutz. Ben benoi means the grandson of the father of the chalutz. In the context of the Mishnah, that answer the Gemara gave before fits. In the context of this braise, it does not fit, because here Rab Chiya is talking about the ones that are asam d'Rabbanan. He's clearly spelling out, these are the four that are asam d'Rabbanan. So if the Gemara would try to give the same shot of the Mishnah, that it's talking about a grandson of the father, that's asam in Atayre, not d'Rabbanan. So therefore, over here, the Gemara can't give that answer. So therefore, the Gemara says, we can prove, according to Meimer, that Chachamim were geyser, the shniyos, even for a chalutza. Now the Gemara will prove it even according to the other opinion that disagrees with a Meimer. Tashama. So the other thing that Rab Chiya mentioned was ben bitay, that she's also to have relations with the son of the daughter of the chalutz. So my love mishum chaylitz. Don't you think that this is the son of the daughter of the chaylitz? Tahavila eishes avi imay. So who is she? She is the wife of avi imay, and that is only an erva midrabanan. Says the Gemara tries to answer, Loi mishum misna. Maybe over here as well, she's only asa to him because she was married to the brother. She was fully married to the one that passed away. And who is she to him? The Havyalah Eishes Achi Avi Imay. So she's going to be the wife of the brother, of the father, of the mother. Okay, if that's some kind of a great uncle, the wife of a great uncle here. But the Gemara says on this is not a good answer at all. V'hagabe shniyes de erve le'gazru. This is not one of the shniyes. Even with the Rabbana, this is not a relation which is at all aser. So how could you say that she would be aser because of the misna, because of the one that passed away? So therefore here the Gemara concedes and says, you're right, elalav mishum chaylitz. Over here, she's only aser to the son of the daughter of the chaylitz, which is the erva midrabanan ushma mina. So this proves the point. Gazru shniyos b'chalutza. Chachamim wore geyser the isser midrabanan of shniyos even for a chalutza, which is the whole thing is the isser midrabanan shma mina. This is a clear raya for this. Okay, going back to the next part of the Mishnah, it said in the Mishnah, mutter adam bekreivas tzaras chalutzasai. That even though we just said that a person is not allowed to have any relations with the relative of a chalutza, but a person is allowed to have relations with the relatives of the second wife of the chalutza. Amar Rav Tuvi bar Kisna. So the Gemara first starts with a statement. Rav Tuvi bar Kisna said, Amar Shmuel, in the name of Shmuel, Haba al tzaras chalutza. If a person has relations with the tzara, the second wife of the chalutza. So as the halacha always is, whenever there's the mitzvah of yibum chalitza, you only do chalitza to one woman, and then the second one you don't have to do chalitza for. But he went and had relations with that chalutza. Havlad mamzer. The child born is going to be mamzer. You would just over and a issa erva that is kodesh for this. Why is there kodesh for this? So my time, what's the reason for what Shmuel said? So he says, Bi isura kaima. The original isser, which is eishes achiv, if not for the mitzvah of yibum, so she is the brother's wife, then there's an isser of erva of kodesh min atayre. So that original isser is in place. That wife that you did the mitzvah chalitza for, so since you did the mitzvah of chalitza, so that isser of eishes achiv that is kodesh for is removed. And now, the only isser that there is, we once learned about this before, there's the isser of lo yibanet. There's a lav that he's not allowed to go and marry her. But for the wife that he did not do chalitza for, the original isser of eishes achiv, which is kodesh, still applies, and if you have relations with her, the child is a mamzer. That's Shmuel's opinion. So now, what's the basis of Shmuel's opinion? The basis of Shmuel's opinion is that when you do chalitza for one wife, that chalitza you did for her has nothing to do with the other wife. The other wife is out of the picture. I did chalitza for her. The other one is not involved in this at all. Again, going back to one of the points that I said before, benigeh to the brothers. When one brother does chalitza, is that brother doing chalitza b'shlichus the other brothers? So we said no. The Mishnah before said v'ha'achem utarin. One brother does chalitza, the other brothers have nothing to do with this. Similar over here, the basis of Shmuel's opinion is, the one that I did chalitza for, so for her chalitza was done. We don't say that this wife is doing the chalitza b'shlichus the other wives. So therefore the other wives are out of this altogether, and for them, the isser of eishes achiv still remains in place. So now the Gemara is going to try to bring a raya from our Mishnah. Rav Yosef, Afanana mitanina. We see this from what it says in our Mishnah. Muter Adam b'kreivas tzaras chalutzasai. Our Mishnah says, even though a person is forbidden to have any relations with the relatives of the chalutza herself, but the relatives of the tzara of the chalutza, he is permitted. Now, if you're going to say, like the logic that I just explained according to Shmuel, tzara abroi, that the tzara is outside of this whole chalitza. The chalitza is done for the one that he did it. Then the tzara has nothing to do with this. So mishum hachi mutta b'chaisa. So that's why we understand why you mutta with any of the relatives, for example, a sister, from the tzara of this chalutza. Because the tzara of the chalutza, it's not like you were doing chalutza for her. That tzara has nothing to do with this chalitza. But if you're going to say that when you do chalitza for one wife, it's as if you did the chalitza for the other wife, because it's like a shlichus. If so, am I mutter? Why are you going to be mutter for the relative of the tzara of the chalutza? The tzara is also like the chalitza was done for her. Okay, so therefore this is a raya to Shmuel's opinion. Now, there was another opinion. We learned all this once in a sugya before. Rabbi Yochanan disagrees with Shmuel. Rabbi Yochanan says that when you do chalitza, the chalitza done for one is like the chalitza was done for the others. It's like a shlichus for the others. And therefore, just like for the one you did chalitza, there's no kares anymore. There's just a lav of lo yibana. The same applies to the tzara. So the tzara is not out of the picture. It's like you did it for her as well. So now, leme, shall we say that this Mishnah here that makes a difference between the relatives of the chalutza and the relatives of the tzara of the chalutza, leme tevet yufta de Rabbi Yochanan. This refutes what Rabbi Yochanan said. The Amar Rabbi Yochanan said, beinu bein achin, ein chayavin, both the brother that did the chalitza or the other brothers that did not do the chalitza, ein chayavin, they are not going to have any chiyuv of kares, lo yala chalutza kares. No kares for this chalutza, it's only a lav now, and also v'loyal tzarasa kares. And there's even for the tzara that you did not do chalitza for, there's no kares either, because it's like the chalitza was done for her as well. It's a shlichus for her as well. So why in our Mishnah does it make a distinction between the chalutza and the tzara of the chalutza? Amalach Rabbi Yochanan, so the Gemara says, Rabbi Yochanan will answer you, there's no raya from our Mishnah that makes a distinction between the chalutza and the tzara. The Tizbere, is this logical that you're bringing a raya from here? Achayis chalutza da iraisa? B'chlal, this whole halacha that the Mishnah said, that a relative, for example a sister of the chalutza, is asa to you. Is that ism and atayra? No, that's only asa with the Rabbanan, as we see from a statement that Rish Lakish said. V'hamer Rish Lakish said, and this is a statement we're going to learn soon in the next Amud of the Gemara, Kan Shana Rebbe, here Rebbe teaches us, Achayis Grusha Medivrei Tayre, a sister of a wife that you divorced, that's asam and atayra. Achayis chalutza medivrei seifrim. The sister of a chalutza, that's only asam with the Rabbanan. So over here in our Mishnah, the whole isser of a relative of a chalutza is all only with the Rabbanan. So therefore, if the whole isser is only with the Rabbanan, it's no wonder that Chachamim did not take their isser so far, and they made a distinction between the chalutza and the tzara of the chalutza. Even if what Rabbi Yochanan said is true, that the chalitza was done b'shlichus for the tzara as well, but nevertheless, the tzara is one step away. It's not the actual woman that you did chalitza for, so therefore Chachamim did not apply the gezerah to the tzara of the chalutza. So it's no raya to what Rabbi Yochanan was speaking about when he was discussing the halacha min ha-Torah regarding the kares. Now the Gemara will explain what it said in our Mishnah, Maishna Hai Umaishna Hai. What is the difference between the two last cases that it said in the Mishnah? What are the two cases it said in the Mishnah? So it said a person mutter, a person is allowed with the kreva of the tzara of the chalutza, but a person is aser with the tzara of the kreva of the chalutza. It's sort of it sounds very similar, but it's not the same, right? One is the kreva of the tzara of the chalutza, and one is the tzara of the kreva of the chalutza. You get that? Okay, so the question is, what is the difference between the two? So the Gemara here explains, again, this is based on Gzeirim with the Rabbanan. So the Gemara, Hach de ozla bahada lebeidina. So the nature of things is, when a woman goes to do chalitza, so who comes to join her? Who comes to give her moral support? A sister of hers, a relative of hers. So because, let's use the example of a sister, which is a kreva of this chalutza, is coming along to the bezdin with her, so therefore, gazru buhu rabbanan. Therefore, chachamim were geyser that the tzara should be aser. Okay, so what Rashi explains over here is, this is going on the case of when it says the tzara of the krayva of the chalutza. Because, the tzara of the chalutza is asa. Right? Once you do chalitza, so now there's a lav of lo yibana, that you're not allowed to have any relations to the tzara of the chalutza. The krayva of that chalutza comes along to the bezdin as well. So when people see this person walking out of the bezdin together with the chalutza and a sister, for example, that came along for moral support, you don't know who did this guy do chalitza for. Did he do chalitza for the one that he actually did it, or maybe he did it for the sister? So since people don't know, chacham that you should be aser for the tzara of both, of the chalutza and the krayv of the chalutza. So people shouldn't make a mistake that you're allowed to have relations to the tzara of the chalutza. So that's regarding the krayv of the chalutza that comes along. But but when it comes to the tzara of the chalutza, the second wife does not come along for moral support. She's not a relative. She's the second wife. She's the rival wife. She does not come along lebeidina to the bezdin. So therefore, the relatives of the tzara that doesn't even come along over here for this ceremony of chalitza, chacham will not geizer. No one will make any confusions over here. So therefore, chachamim said that that's allowed. Okay. So I am going to continue. If you want to, okay, I'm going weiter. I'm going to try. It's out of Yom Tov today. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Zok Heilige Mishneh hachayletz liyevimtai. A person does chalitze for his yevame, and now what happened? V'nasa achiv es achaysai. Now one of the brothers went ahead and got married to a sister of this the woman that he did chalitza for. Umeis, and now this brother passes away. So chaylet says v'loy misyabemes. So now the brother that's alive could only do chalitza and not yibum. Why? Because this woman is the sister of his chalutza. He did chalitza first for the sister. This is the halacha that we learned in the previous Mishnah. A similar halacha, the Mishnah says, I'm a garish sister, a person divorced his wife. And now his brother went along and married a sister of his grusha. Umeis, and that brother died. So harezu petura, over here is going to be totally pater of doing both chalitza or yibum. Because this is actually something which is asatim and atayra. In the previous case, we were talking about a chalutza. A chalutza is only asim d'Rabbanan. So therefore you still have to do chalitza. But over here, since this is the sister of your grusha, that's a ervim and atayra. So therefore there's no chalitza or yibum. The next case, Dr. Mishnah, shemeres yavam, a person that is a shemeres yavam. There's a woman that's anticipating, waiting for the mitzvah of yibum. So there's, let's say, a few brothers here, and there's this woman that's waiting to do yibum. Shekidish achiv v'sachaysa. So one of the brothers went along and was mekadish the sister of this shemeres yavam. So now once he's mekadish the sister, so what's the story? This is a sister of this yavam that's waiting over here. So what does he do? So Mishum Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira Amro, Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira says, Ayimrim loy, we say to him, Hamten, wait, don't get fully married to her. You only did kiddushin. Don't have relations with her. Until your brother, one of the other brothers, is going to go ahead and do yibum. In other words, what's the problem over here? The issue is that this is a chais zikukase, something we learned about many times before. That this woman that's here, Zika, waiting for you to do yibum for her, if none of the other brothers are going to do yibum yet, she's still a chais zikukase, so how could you have relations with this wife that's a sister? So you have to wait. If one of the brothers went and did chalitza to the sister, or went and did yibum for her, so now yichnas asishtay. So now the sister that you did kedushin for, you can go ahead and marry her. Or meisa yevama, if that yevama that was anticipating for you to do yibum passed away, so also yichnas asishtay, you can go ahead and marry this wife. Meis yavam. Now what happens if let's say there were two brothers here that were available to do yibum? And again, like we said, one of the brothers went and was mekadesh a sister, so that l'chayda locks him out from the option of doing yibum because it's his wife's sister. But now the other brother that was alive, that was able to do yibum, died. So now you're the only one that can do this mitzvah of yibum. So what do? Yaitzi esishtai beget. You have to divorce your wife with a get. Why? Because she is a chais zikukase. And there's no eitzah that the other brother should go and do yibum for the other brother died. So you're going to have to divorce your wife with a get. And ve'eishis achiv b'chalitza. And then you can also, the eishis achiv, your brother's wife, which is the Yevama, you're going to have to give her chalitza, because she is now a sister of your wife that you gave a get for. That's also asa to you. So you're going to lose both. You're not going to be able to be married to your wife that you did kedusha for, and also not to this Yevama. Okay, so the Gemara starts with the first thing in the Mishnah. What did it say in the first case of the Mishnah? That you had a case of a chais chalutzasai, which you have to do chalitza for and not yibum. And then the Mishnah said, v'chein, when it comes to a chais grusha, you don't do not chalitza and not yibum. Fragt the Gemara, mai v'chein. Why does he use the term v'chein? It's not the same halacha. By a chais chalitzasai, that is, you only do chalitza and not yibum. By a chais grusha, you have to do anything. Says the Gemara, rather you have to read in the Mishnah, aval amegarish. Not v'chein, but you read it aval. But when you divorced your wife, then a sister, you don't have to do yibum or chalitza. So now, here's the statement the Gemara quoted before. Amar Reish Lakish said, Kan, Shana Rebbe, it's in this Mishnah that Rebbe taught us, Chais Grusha, the sister of a Grusha, Medivrei Teira. That's also Minat Teira. So there's no Yibum or Chalitza. Chais Chalutza, the sister of a Chalutza, Medivrei Seifrim. That's also only Midirabanan, therefore there's a Chalitza, but no Yibum. It said in the Mishnah, Shemeres Yavam Shekidish, that a Shemeres Yavam did the Kiddushin. So now, what does Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira say? You can't go and have any relations with her. Why? Because she is a sister. This wife you Mekadesh now is a sister to a Zekuka, to this other Yevama that's there waiting to do Chalitza for yours, Yibum. So that's a Chay Zekukasai. So you have to wait until any of the other brothers will do the Yibum. Shmuel said Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. We pass like Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, which basically his opinion is based on the halacha of Yesh Zike. That wife that's waiting is as if she's your wife to some extent, and therefore you can't marry now this wife that you did Kedushin for, because it's your wife's sister. But now the question was asked, Meisa Ishtay. What happens if this wife that you gave Kedushin for, which created the problem, that you can't do the Yibum for this other one, which is a Chayziku Kasa, you can't do Yibum for her, Mahu Biyavimtai. So now that your wife passed away, so now she's not anymore your wife's sister, because the Isser of a wife's sister is only while your wife is alive. But now your wife passed away, will you be allowed to do Yibum for your Yevameh? So this goes into a sugya which we had before in the Gemara here. Daf Yud Ches, the Gemara before discussed a situation where you have a woman that fell for Yibum, and when she fell for Yibum, there was an Isser involved. And then later, the Isser was removed. Like over here. There was an Isser because she was your wife's sister, but now your wife passed away, so that Isser is removed. What happens now? Could you do Yibum or not? So there's a machlokes about this, and we had this in the Gemara before. Rav and Rab Chanina damri tarvayu. Rav and Rab Chanina both say, Meisa ishtoi, if your wife, which is a sister to the Yevamah, passes away, so now mutter bi yivimtoi. So now there's no Erev anymore, so you can go ahead and do Yibum. Shmuel and Ravasi damri tarvayu. Shmuel and Ravasi both say, Meisa ishtoi, your wife passes away, also bi yivimtoi, that original Isser still remains in place. Why does the original Isser still stay in place? Because once the Yevamah was not able to do the mitzvah of Yibum, so the Isra of Eishes Achiv applies. Eishes Achiv is a Kares. Once that Isra of Eishes Achiv applies, it remains forever, even if the Erev is removed. Now the Gemara will explain what's the reason for the opinion that says that it does become mutter. Amar Rav, my time of the Rav, why does Rav say that if your wife dies and the Erev is removed, that Isra of Eishes Achiv also gets removed? Mishom, because in this case is the Havoi Yevama Shehotra. This is actually a case of a Yevama that originally when she fell for Yibum, she was mutter. Why? Because over here, when she fell for Yibum, you did not yet marry her sister. So originally she was mutter, there was no Erev B'chlal. And then V'nesra, then you married her sister, so she became Asa, she became an Erev for you. And now, when your wife died, V'chazra V'hotra, she becomes mutter again. So therefore, because originally when she fell for Yibum, she was muter, she goes back to the original heter. If from the first moment when she fell for Yibum, she was aser, that Isser remains forever. Here, since the moment she fell for Yibum, she was muter. She became aser afterwards when you married the wife's sister, so therefore, or the again, you married the sister of this Yevamah, so therefore over here, once that wife died, you go back to the original heter. So the Gemara asks on this, and this is also something we learned before. Masav Rav Amnuna asks, it says, a case as follows. Gimel Achin, you have three brothers, Beis Nesuim, Beis Achayis. Two of these brothers are married to two sisters. Ve'echad Mufna. And one brother is single. Meis Echad Mibale Achayis. One of the brothers married to one of these sisters passes away. So now obviously the brother that's married to a sister can't do any Yibum. So that brother that was single went ahead and did maim. He did not yet do yibum or chalitza, but he made this kedushim b'derabbanan for her. Now what happens? The second brother passes away, and not only he passes away, and also his wife passes away. So now what happens? So over here, so you have a case. So first let's see the halacha that it says. So now this Yevama from the first brother that passed away. So let's name these two people already, these two brothers. You have Reuven and Shimon. So first Reuven passed away, and the single brother did just maima for her. And now afterwards the second brother Shimon passes away, and his wife passes away as well. So now this Yevama over here that's still alive from the Reuven, so you could do chalitza for her and only yibum. Fragt the Gemara, but why can't you do chalitza or yibum as well? To heavy, why isn't this considered to be a case? Ki yevame shahutra. This is a yevame that originally was mutter. What happened originally? Originally, when Reuven was the only one that passed away, his wife was totally mutter for yibum for the single brother. There's no problem. But now what happened? V'nesra. Now when Shimon passes away, so now there's another sister that's here to do Yibum, so now it's a Chayse Kukase. Now there's a Issa that came into play only afterwards. And now that second wife, or it's not a second wife, it's the wife of the second brother, it's the wife of Shimon that passed away, V'chazra v'hutra, so now the heter for the first Yevame from Reuven becomes mutter again, because the sister passed away, so Tachza L'Teira Arisha. Why don't we go back to the original heter? So over here we clearly have an example of a case of hutra, v'nesra, v'chazra, v'hutra, and it says over here that the original issa remains in place. So this is a question on the opinion that said before that it doesn't, that the issa does not remain in place. Yeah. So the Gemara labasa denofik. So Ishtik, missed one word there. Ishtik, he was quiet, he did not answer this question. Labasa denofik, after he left, Omar. So he asked him, Amai, who's having the discussion over here? Rav Amnuna, I think it says in Mefarshim, he was having this discussion with Rava. So he asked Rava the question, Amai loy omrit, why did you not give lay? Why didn't you say the following answer? Rabbi Lazahi, that is. That Mishnah there that says that even in a case where it was mutter in the beginning and it became asr afterwards and it became mutter again, that it's still asr forever, that's only the opinion of Rabbi Lazar. The Amma, because Rabbi Lazar's opinion is Kivin sha'amda olav shah achaz be'isr. Once this woman was asr for just one moment to this brother, Nasra olav ilamis. He remains asr forever. That's Rabbi Lazar. So maybe this is only Rabbi Lazar's opinion. So why didn't you give that answer? Okay, we'll see soon more details about Rabbi Lazar's opinion, but the point the Gemara is trying to say is that maybe we can't bring a raya from here, or maybe it's only Rabbi Lazar. But then he said, no, we can't say that this would be Rabbi Lazar. Why? When did Rabbi Lazar say what he said? That's if from the first moment of Yibum, or from before the moment that she falls for Yibum, then she was not Roy for this brother. There was a moment that she was not Roy for this brother, then it remains a Isser forever. But we don't find that Rabbi Lazar said in a case where this Yevama was Roy for Yibum at the time of she fell for Yibum, and an Isser came up only later, like it happened over here in this case, when the other brother that was married to the other sister died, and therefore the Issa only came up later. Miyama, in such a case, does he say that the Issa remains forever? But the Gemara retracts this and says, no, Hadar Amar. But then Rava said that yes, we do find that even in such a case, Rabbi Lazar says that the Issa will remain forever. And basically we have a clear braise where Rabbi Lazar speaks about the case that we mentioned before. Because Vatani, we learned in the braise, Rabbi Lazar says, Meisa yevimtoi mutabishtoi. In the same case we were speaking about before, when you have a Yevame and you have the wife, and you're talking about sisters, so if the Yevame passes away, so you can remain married to your wife, there's no problem at all. Meisa ishtoi, but if your wife passed away, then for this Yevame, because she was once the sister of your wife and there was a Isser, that Isser remains forever, and you can only do you cannot do not Yibum and not Chalitza. Actually, again, Meisa Ishta Yevame Chalitza v'loy misyavemes. You do Chalitza but not Yibum. Okay, so what do you see over here? You see over here, basically, this is the exact same case that we were speaking about in the beginning. This holy boya. The argument between Shmuel and who was it before? The argument between Shmuel and Ravasi and Rav and Rab Chanina. So right over here, we see it says clearly, like Shmuel and Ravasi, that the Issa remains forever. So the Gemara, this is the exact case of Shmuel and Ravasi. So if so, it seems like that their opinion follows only like Rabbi Lazar, which was very stringent about this. That even if the Isser came up later, not at the time when they fell for Yibum, nevertheless the Isser remains forever. Says the Gemara, no, afilateme kerabanan. Shmuel and Ravasi will tell you our opinion follows even according to the Rabbanan. Even Rabbanan will agree that in such a case, when the Isser came up later, the Isser still remains forever. Why? When did the Rabbanan argue on Rabbi Lazar? Ella only mishum deminefila ve'elech le'mitzar alayu. That's if after, from the moment when she fell for Yibum, from that moment forward, there was no Isser at all on any of the brothers. Aval hacha the Isser over here, when there was an Isser that came up later, afila Rabbanan maidu. Over here in this case, even the Rabbanan would be maide. So Rashi over here brings from the Mishnah later, from the Gemara later, which discusses what case we're talking about over here. The Gemara says we're talking about a case where you had the brother that was married to this woman, he divorced her. When he was alive, he divorced her, and then he got remarried to her. Now when he divorces her, this woman becomes usher to the brother, because it's a wife of your brother that he divorced, which is usher for you. But then he remarried her. Right? So therefore, according to Rabbi Lazar, even though when he remarries her and then he passes away, now there's a mitzvah of Yibum, but because once before he divorced her, that's even before she fell for Yibum. Even before she fell for Yibum, then he divorced and he was now usher to the brother, so therefore that Issa remains forever. So that's an Issa that even began before she fell for Yibum, still that Issa remains forever. It's that case that the Rabbanan disagree and say that because the Issa was only before she fell for Yibum, when he divorced her while he was alive, that Issa does not remain forever. But over here, Shmuel and Ravasi hold that if the Issa comes up even after she falls for Yibum, so she was mutter originally, but since the Issa came up now after she fell for Yibum, that Issa remains forever. Can we go on a little bit try to finish over here the next Gemara? So we have, we'll be on schedule in Mitzvah Shem with the continuation. Okay. Zok Teilige Mishneh, Hayevame loy tachloitz v'loy tisyabim. Hayevame should not do not chalitza and not yibum at sheyesh la shleisha chadashim, until you wait 3 months after the brother passed away. We had also this sugya also in the Gemara before. You have to wait in order to know regarding the birth of a child, you have to know who the child is. Okay, but here it adds that not only you don't do yibum, but you don't do chalitza either. Okay, we'll see. The Gemara will explain. The kol shara noshim. The same is true with other women b'chlal. Lo yisarsu v'lo yinasu. They should not do the edison, the first stage of marriage, and not nisu in full marriage. At shil and shloisha chadashim, until there's 3 months that pass after the previous marriage. And this refers to echad psulais, whether it's still a psula, echad bu'ulais, or she's already a bu'ula. Echad gerushais, v'echad almanes, whether the previous marriage she was divorced or she became an almana. Echad nesuais, she was fully married. Echad arusais, or she was only an arusa. Some of these cases over here seem to be redundant. The Gemara will explain it. In all of these cases, there's a gzeira that you have to wait 3 months for next marriage. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, not always do you have to wait. Ha nesuais, if for the first marriage she was fully married, so yisarsu, she wants to get remarried, she could do the first stage of marriage before she has any relations. She'll wait 3 months for the second nisuin. But to do edison again, she doesn't have to wait because there's no relations here with the second marriage, so there's no problem that there'll be a child that you have to determine who it's born from. And the same thing in the reverse. If she only had an edison with the first marriage, so there's no child that would be born there, so yinasu, so she can get immediately married to the second marriage. Chutz min arusais shebi Yehuda. Well, there's one exception: the arusais of the area of Yehuda and Eretz Yisrael, mipnei sheli begaspa. Because over there, the minig was that even before there was a full marriage, they would be together. They would seclude them together in order for her to get familiarized with her husband. So over there, we are concerned. We have to find out to know for sure who this child that's born is, who's the father. So therefore, over here, you should wait 3 months. Rabbi Yossi says a similar thing to Rabbi Yehuda. Kol anashim yisarsu. All women that were previously married could get remarried, the first stage of marriage, edison, even within 3 months. Chutz min almana. The only one that is an exception is an almana, and that's for a different reason. Mipnei ha'ivul. Because of avelos, that because she's still mourning for the first husband that passed away, it's not appropriate for her to get remarried so quickly with the second marriage, second husband. Okay, so the Gemara goes back to the first case of the Mishnah. So what did it say? When you're doing Yibum, you have to wait 3 months till when the brother passed away. Fragt the Gemara, why are you waiting 3 months over here for the Chalitza? We understand why you can't do Yibum, Shamiyav, Lad Ben Kayame, because the reason over here is actually, this goes back to what we learned before. It's not only an issue that you have to determine who the child is, like the Seif of the Mishnah, but over here the issue is much more. Because you don't know if this woman is pregnant or not, and maybe the child will be a Ben Kayame, maybe she will have a child which is a viable child. So it turns out that this woman you married is your brother's wife, which is Islam and Atayra, because there's no mitzvah of Yibum here at all. So that we understand why you have to wait 3 months. But when it says in the Mishnah, don't do chalitza either, amai. Why don't do chalitza? Do chalitza. If the chalitza is good, it's good. If not, the chalitza is just nothing. There's no isra in doing the chalitza. So the Gemara says, Leimet have to the Rabbi Yechanan. Shall this be a refutation for Rabbi Yechanan's opinion that we once had before? The Amar was a machlekes between Rabbi Yechanan and Reish Lakish, and Rabbi Yechanan said, Chalitzas me'uberes, shma chalitza. That when you do chalitza for a muberes, she's pregnant, and Rabbi Yechanan said, if then she missed the child that's born, she miscarries, even though the chalitza was done while she's pregnant, the chalitza is a good chalitza. So over here in our Mishnah where it says, wait with the chalitza, it seems to indicate why you're waiting, because even if the child that's born is not a ben kayama, and you require chalitza, but since the chalitza was done during the pregnancy, it's not a good chalitza. That was Reish Lakish's opinion. So this refutes what Rabbi Yechanan said. Says the Gemara, "V'lav mi yesfino Rabbi Yechanan chad zimne." Didn't we already once before refute Rabbi Yechanan's opinion? We brought before a brayse that refuted his opinion. So the Gemara says, you're right, but leime mihon nami tavet yufte. Shall we say that we could refute Rabbi Yechanan's opinion from this Mishnah here as well? If you'll somehow find an answer to that brayse, you have another raya against Rabbi Yechanan from this Mishnah here. Says the Gemara, from here, from this Mishnah, there's no question of Rabbi Yechanan. Why? The reason why over here in the Mishnah you don't do chalitza either, it's because Shema Yehei Vlad ben Kayama. Because over here, if you're going to do chalitza, but it could be that the child born will be a viable child. And then the chalitza is not a chalitza at all. Now, what happens? People are going to think that she's a chalutza and she's pasul to kainim, and you're going to require us to announce for her that she's mutter to kainim. Says the Gemara, okay, so what's so terrible? So let's make that announcement. Says the Gemara, we can't rely on that. Maybe people that were there by the chalitza know that she's a chalutza, and they'll say she's pasul to kain, and they weren't there when they announced that she's mutter to kain. So we can't rely on that. So now she's going to become pasul to kainim. So therefore they said, delay the chalitza for 3 months, so you'll know if she needs this chalitza or not to make her pasul to kainim for no reason. Okay, so but now the Gemara says, Teinach almana. This is a good answer in a case of a woman that's only an almana. She was married to the brother, and her brother passed away, so she's only an almana, so now you don't want her to become pasul to kain. Grusha ma'yikalameimar. But what are you going to say if in addition to the fact that she's an almana, she also was previously already a grusha, she got married to the brother after a divorce? She was already a grusha from before. So if she's a grusha, there's no issue of asring her takayin. She's already asa takayin. Says the Gemara, but there's another issue, and that is mishum the mafsid law mezainis. We don't want the chalitza to be done because she's going to be losing out from the mezainis, that she has to be fed mezainis. What's the halach of mezainis? The halach is when a husband passes away, the first 3 months after he passes away, she gets fed from the properties, from the possessions, from the money of that husband that passed away. But that's only until chalitza is done. Once chalitza is done, she does not get any mezainis. So if you're going to do chalitza within the 3 months, she's going to be stuck without getting fed. So therefore we say, leave the chalitza until after the 3 months, so she shouldn't lose out from the mezainis that she gets in that time. Says the Gemara, this halacha of her being fed is also not in every situation. Tainach nesua, that's true regarding a woman that now her husband passed away and she was fully married to him. But arusa, gerusha, ma'yikalameima. But if she's only an arusa, by an arusa there's no mezainis. So that's not a concern that she's losing out of the mezainis within 3 months. And if it's a grusha, so there's no concern that she would become asata kayin, because she's already asata kayin. Ma'yikalameima. Why can't you do chalitza within 3 months? Elos, the Gemara says there's a different reason here. Yishom, the Rabbi Yosi, the reason why there's no chalitza here is because of a rule that Rabbi Yosi said. The Tanya, we learned in Abraisa, Ma'isa ba demechat shabal lefnei Rabbi Yosi. There's a person that came to Rabbi Yosi Amalei and he said to him, Ma'al lachleitz b'tech gimel, could you do chalitza within 3 months? Amalei loy tachleitz, you can't do chalitza. In fact, the Gemara, but v'tachleitz, why can't you do chalitza? Ma bekach. What's the problem? So he was arguing, he was saying, why can't I do chalitza? If the chalitza turns out to be good, it's good, because she was not pregnant. If she was pregnant, so it's not a chalitza. What's the problem to do chalitza? Karal of Mikra. So he read and said the following pasuk. Im lo yachbetz. If he does not want to do yibum, then you do chalitza. So what does this mean? Ha'am chafetz yibum. That you only do chalitza in a case where if he wanted, he could have done yibum. And this brings us the rule that we had a few times before. Kala ayla yibum, ayla chalitza. That if you have the mitzvah of yibum, so then you do chalitza. But if you don't have the mitzvah of yibum, so then you don't do the mitzvah of chalitza. So therefore over here, because there is no mitzvah of yibum within these 3 months, so therefore there's no mitzvah of chalitza either. So therefore there's no question over here, according to Rabbi Yechanan. Right, according to Rabbi Yechanan, that said that if you do chalitza for a woman that was pregnant, that chalitza takes effect. So over there, Taka, you can do the chalitza and it will take effect. But over here, in this case, because you can't do yibum within the 3 months, so you don't do chalitza either. Okay. So that's the final answer of the Gemara. But the Gemara now asks on this, Masav Rav Chanina asks, Hasfeikis choltzais v'loy misyabmais. What's the halacha of sfeikis? Women that it's a suffix regarding their status. It's a suffix, and for them, what Gemara will explain in a moment what the suffix is. So it says regarding these women that are sfeikis, you do chalitza and you do not do yibum. My sfeikis. So what does sfeikis mean? Ilemes suffix kiddushin. The sfeikis mean that it's a suffix if she was married to the brother that passed away. A case that we once had before. When you throw a kiddushin, it's suffix kod of loy, suffix kod of law. So in such a case, so you do chalitza and not yibum. So the question is, amai loy misyabmais. Why would you not be able to do yibum? Tisyabim vein bekach klum. You should be allowed to do yibum and there's no issue at all. Why not? Because if she was married to the brother, so now you have a mitzvah of yibum. If she was not married to the brother, so then you're doing a kedushin now. There's no issue at all. So why can't you do yibum? Elolav. So don't you think, what does this mean? Suffix shekidish achas mishtei achayis ve'eni de'ez men kiddush. Also a case we once had before. A person was mekadesh a woman, one of 2 sisters, but we're not sure which one of these sisters he was mekadesh. And therefore, what's the issue? Why can't you do yibum? Because this woman might be the sister, not the one that he was mekadesh, and that would be a chais zikukasai. So therefore, you can't do yibum. Ve'katani, what does it say? Ve'chaletzes, that even though you can't do yibum, you still do chalitza. So what do you see? That even in a case where you can't do yibum, you still do chalitza. And you're saying that there's a rule that over here, within the 3 months, when you can't do the yibum, you also don't do the chalitza. Says the Gemara, there's no comparison. Hachi hashta, how could you compare these 2 cases? Hasam, over there in the case when you have a suffix, which one of these sisters he married? Im Yavi Eliyahu v'Yaimar. If someone will come and if Eliyahu and Navi will come and tell you the truth, the ha kiddush, this is the one that this person married. So bas chalitza v'yibim, really, she is a wife that there's no reason that you shouldn't be allowed to do chalitza and yibum. The only problem over here is that we don't know. It's a lack of knowledge. We don't know which one he married. But if somebody would be able to tell us who it is, so really the mitzvah of chalitza and yibum does apply. So even though you can't do the yibum because of a lack of our knowledge, it's not a case which is intrinsically locked out of yibum. It's just that we don't know who the one is to do the yibum for. So in such a case, the mitzvah of chalitza still applies. You can't say that there's no yibum here. It's just that we don't know. So practically we can't do the yibum. But hacha, over here, when it comes to the case that we're speaking about, which is within 3 months that we don't do yibum, if Eliyahu and Navi would come along and tell us that he knows that this woman is not pregnant, would that be enough for us to say that you could now go ahead and do yibum? No, that wouldn't be. Even though that's the whole reason. The whole reason is because we're concerned that she might be pregnant, and therefore you don't do yibum because he's going to be marrying a wife, Eishes Achiv, which is asa. But that's not the reason why, because haketana, the lav basiburihi, even when it comes to haketana, where it's impossible for her to be pregnant, and you still have to wait 3 months until she gets remarried and does yibum. So what does that show you? Even if you know that she's 100% not pregnant, still the gzeira applies that you don't do yibum. So in such a case, where either way, it's not just a matter that we don't know, but either way, and within the 3 months there is no mitzvah of yibum at all, so therefore in such a case the mitzvah of chalitza does not apply. So therefore, this is a different story. But Rashi here points out that we do have many different cases where you don't do Yibum and you still do Chalitza, because there are many different cases where there's no choice. You can't do Yibum. Then I tell you, it's not an option to do Yibum because of an erva or whatever problem there is, and the only option you could is do Chalitza. So in such cases, you obviously have to do Chalitza and not Yibum. But that's an exception. That's not the cases that we're speaking about over here in the Gemara.